So, I want you to imagine you are a carrier, right? You dispatch a truck for a really high value load,
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
right? And I mean, everything looks completely standard, just like the dozens of other loads you've booked this week. The paperwork is flawless.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You check the active motor carrier number on the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration website, and it's green. It's good to go.
Which is exactly what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. You verify the matching email signature from the broker. The pickup number is exactly what the facility is expecting, and the rate confirmation is sitting right there in your inbox.
Signed and dated, I
It's
assume.
signed and dated. So your driver arrives at the facility, hands over the documentation, the cargo is loaded, and they snap the seal onto the trailer doors. The truck rolls out of the yard.
And you think you're done.
Yeah, you take a sip of your coffee, mentally checking that job off the list, and you're already moving on to the next fire drill of the day. But then,
Comes.
4 hours later, the phone rings. And it's the real carrier, the one who actually owns the company name on that paperwork you just processed.
Oh, man. That is the worst feeling.
Your stomach just drops. You realize the truck that just took your freight was a digital phantom. I mean, you've just been robbed in broad daylight, and you didn't just leave the door unlocked. You essentially handed the thieves the keys, a map, and a thank you note.
It is a terrifying realization. And, the most chilling part is that this exact scenario is playing out across the country every single day.
Every single day.
Yeah. We aren't talking about some rare freak occurrence where someone gets incredibly unlucky. We are talking about a highly systemic, industrialized operation.
And that is exactly what we are focusing on for today's deep dive. We are looking at the modern freight fraud crisis.
It's huge right now.
It really is. It's a massive, organized attack on the entire transportation industry's trust system. And our mission today is to help you, our listener, understand the critical line between legitimate brokering and devastating identity theft.
Right, because there's a very fine line there sometimes.
Totally. We are going to dig deep into the mechanics of how these criminals operate so you can identify the specific red flags that demand an immediate halt to any transaction.
Stop everything kind of red flags.
Exactly. We're going to talk about how to empower drivers as the last line of defense, and ultimately, we are going to unpack a definitive 17-step checklist.
And we're not just reading a list, right?
No way. We're building it into a fortress to prevent freight fraud from completely gutting your business.
I love that. And we really need to establish the stakes here, because if you are operating under the assumption that this is just like a paperwork annoyance or a minor administrative
You
headache,
get in for a rude awakening.
you are going to get wiped out. What we are looking at is what the FBI explicitly calls cyber-enabled strategic cargo theft.
Cyber-enabled strategic cargo theft. That sounds serious.
It is. I mean, the numbers from the National Insurance Crime Bureau are just staggering. Cargo crimes jumped 27% in 2024.
Wow. 27%.
Yeah. And they didn't stop there. They're projected to rise another 22% throughout 2025.
That is wild.
And we aren't talking about, a few stolen televisions falling off the back of a truck or a driver skimming a pallet of paper towels.
Right, this isn't petty theft.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Individual thefts are now averaging over $200,000. These are massive, coordinated hits.
Okay, let's unpack this because before we can stop the fraud, we have to understand exactly what we are fighting.
Absolutely.
And to do that, we have to get our terminology straight. The industry has a really bad habit of being sloppy with words.
Oh, totally. People casually throw around the term double brokering to describe almost anything that goes wrong with a load transfer.
Yeah, but looking at the August 2026 Cascadia Prime report, they insist that precision really matters here. It's not just semantics, right?
Right, it's not just semantics because the operational response, and more importantly, the legal exposure, differs wildly depending on the precise mechanics of what actually happened.
So precision is everything.
If you misdiagnose the disease, you apply the wrong cure. So let's start with what is actually legal and above board because we need a baseline.
Okay, lay it on me.
That is legitimate co-brokering. This is an authorized, transparent agreement between two licensed brokers. Let's say broker A has the freight from the shipper, but broker B has a perfect carrier network for that specific lane.
Makes sense so far.
Right. So they sign a co-brokerage agreement. It clearly defines the roles of each party, how the payment flows, who holds the liability for cargo damage, and crucially, it has the shipper's explicit approval.
So the defining characteristics here are transparency and authority.
Exactly. Everyone in the chain knows exactly who is doing what, and there is a legal paper trail binding them together.
Right, nobody's hiding in the shadows. The shipper knows broker B is involved, the carrier knows broker A holds the primary contract, and if a claim happens, the insurance companies know exactly which door to knock on.
Exactly. That's how it's supposed to work.
But then you contrast that with fraudulent double brokering. This isn't just a miscommunication, it's a deliberate severing of that legal paper trail, isn't it?
That's spot on. In a fraudulent double brokering scenario, a party accepts a load from a broker or a shipper, pretending they are a legitimate carrier who is going to transport it on their own trucks.
Or pretending to be a legit broker, right.
Right, but then they transfer that load to an entirely different, unsuspecting carrier without any authorization or disclosure to the original party.
So they basically take the load for, say, $3,000, and then they turn around and post it on a load board for $4,000 to hook a victim.
Yes, and that is a crucial point. They often offer the second carrier an incredibly attractive rate, sometimes even higher than what the fraudster is supposedly getting paid by the shipper.
Wait, why would they do that? They'd lose money.
Because the fraudster never intends to pay a single dime of it.
Ah, right.
They take the payment from the original broker or shipper, and they simply vanish into the ether.
Wow. So what happens to the poor carrier who actually moved the freight?
The actual delivering carrier is left holding the bag. I mean, they have the fuel costs, the payroll for the driver, the wear and tear on the truck, the insurance premiums, and zero revenue for the run.
That's devastating for a small business.
It really is. And the legal aftermath is a complete nightmare. It's a tangled web of competing claims, bond notices, and withheld bills of lading.
Because the delivering carrier doesn't even have a direct legally binding contract with the party holding the freight charges.
Exactly. The original shipper says, hey, I didn't hire you, I hired the fraudster. And the carrier says, well, I have your freight and I want to be paid. It completely paralyzes the supply chain.
But it gets darker than just shady contracts and unauthorized transfers. We have to talk about identity theft and account takeovers.
This is where it gets really scary.
Yeah, this is where the digital phantom aspect really comes into play. The Cascadia Prime Report breaks this down into a couple of flavors, starting with carrier identity theft. This is where criminals just straight up steal a legitimate carrier's identity. They steal their US DOT or MC numbers, which are their operating authorities, their insurance certificates, their company logos, even their W-9 tax forms.
They take everything.
And the terrifying part is, the victim carrier is sitting there completely unaware until the bomb goes off.
And that bomb usually takes the form of a massive unpaid invoice from a factoring company for a load they never hauled.
Oh, wow.
Or, much worse, a crash report from the highway patrol for a truck they don't even own that just caused a multi-car pileup in a state they don't even operate in.
Okay, let's drill down into the mechanics of that. How exactly are they pulling this off? Because a W-9 is a tax document and an insurance certificate is issued by a massive underwriter. How does a cartel just steal this stuff?
It's a combination of digital forgery and social engineering. Let's say you are a legitimate small trucking company. Your MC number is public record. The criminals take that number. They create a brand new email address that looks almost identical to yours. If your company is Smith Trucking, maybe they register the domain smithtruckinginc.com.
Close enough to fool a quick glance.
Exactly. Then they scrape your actual logo from your website. Then they take a legitimate PDF of a W-9 or an insurance certificate, maybe one they got from you on a previous legitimate load, or one they just bought on the dark web.
Right, because those float around.
All the time. They use PDF editing software to manipulate the contact information, but they leave your actual business name and EIN intact.
So when a broker runs your MC number, the government database says you are perfectly legitimate, highly rated, and fully insured.
Yes, but the phone number and the email address point directly to a burner phone and a server in Eastern Europe.
Man, so using a legitimate MC number is basically like wearing a digital costume. You've stolen a police officer's badge and uniform, and you're walking around directing traffic.
That is a perfect analogy. You are relying on the trust inherent in the uniform, while the person wearing it is a complete imposter.
But wait, let me push back on the legal side for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
If a carrier accepts a load with the contract that strictly says, like, no rebrokering under any circumstances, but they subcontract it out anyway, Can't they just point to the legal definition of co-brokering?
Ah, I see where you're going.
Like, can't they just claim they were just co-brokering if they get caught bending the rules? Like, hey, I didn't steal it, I just organized it differently than you asked.
The Cascadia Prime report is remarkably strict on this exact point because that is a very common defense used by shady operators trying to blur the lines.
Right, it seems like an easy out.
It isn't. Calling an unauthorized transfer co-brokering does not magically cure a contract violation. If a contract explicitly prohibits rebrokering, you cannot just rename the action to avoid the consequences. It's a breach of contract, plain and simple.
So changing the label doesn't change the crime.
Exactly. Furthermore, just because someone happens to hold a legitimate broker's license, that does not give them unlimited overarching authority to transfer every customer's freight whenever they feel like it.
That makes total sense.
The authority to co-broker must be explicit, documented, and approved by the party actually paying the freight bill. You can't just sprinkle the word co-brokering over a fraudulent transfer and expect it to hold up in court.
Okay, so that's carrier identity theft. But the report highlights something called broker identity theft and account takeover, or ATO. And they flag this as arguably the most dangerous variant of this entire crisis.
It absolutely is.
But why is that? If they are stealing a broker's identity instead of a carrier's, isn't it the same basic digital costume?
It's much worse, actually, because in an account takeover, the call is literally coming from inside the house.
Oh, man, inside the house.
Yeah. In carrier identity theft, the criminals are building a fake replica of a company. In an ATO, they actually breach and control the real company's infrastructure.
Like they are actually logged in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Criminals compromise the real broker's actual email servers, their actual phone systems, their transportation management systems, or their load board credentials.
So we are talking about phishing attacks, password spraying, that sort of thing.
That's exactly it. A dispatcher at a legitimate brokerage clicks a bad link in an email, or maybe they use the same password for their load board that they use for a breached social media account.
A classic mistake.
The hackers get in,
Yeah.
but they don't usually strike immediately. They sit quietly in the email inbox. They set up hidden forwarding rules.
Just watching and waiting.
Yeah, they watch how the dispatcher communicates, what templates they use, how they negotiate rates. Then when a really high-value load comes across a desk, the hacker intercepts it. They reply to the carrier from the broker's actual verified email address. They send real shipment details.
Wait, so if I'm a carrier and I rely on static checks like, oh, I know Dave at Mega Logistics, I recognize his email address, dave@megalogistics.com, those checks are going to fail completely.
Complete failure.
Because I really am getting an email from Dave's actual account.
Precisely. The fraudulent message is originating from the legitimate system. Every digital signature, every IP address check, every domain verification tool will tell you that the email is 100% authentic.
Because it is authentic.
The system is authentic. The human operating it is a criminal. That is why ATO is the most dangerous variant. It bypasses almost all traditional digital perimeter defenses.
So if the FMCSA's public databases can't tell the difference between the real Smith trucking and the digital costume, and the broker's own email might be compromised, we have a massive structural problem.
We really do.
Now that we know what these digital costumes look like and the mechanics of how the criminals are wearing them, the natural question is, why is it so incredibly easy for them to operate in this space?
Right. Why are they so successful?
Yeah. Why is the freight market such a soft target?
To understand that, we have to look at the underlying vulnerabilities of how modern freight is moved. The report points out a really fascinating, almost tragic paradox regarding public data.
We basically hand the criminals the blueprint, don't we?
We really do, and it's because of the weaponization of public data. On one hand, registration and insurance data absolutely must be public.
Well, yeah, shippers need it.
Shippers, brokers, and law enforcement need to be able to instantly verify a carrier's authority to operate their safety record and their insurance coverage before handing over a loaded trailer.
Right.
But criminals use this exact same public database to build those credible fake identities we just talked about. They look at the public records to see who is active, where their home terminal is, how many trucks they have, and who their insurance agent is.
So the very tool designed to create trust is the exact tool used to manufacture deceit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the crucial distinction that the industry consistently fails to make is that transparency is not the same as authentication.
Right.
Just because someone emailing you knows a carrier's correct physical address or their MC number or the name of their insurance provider, That does not prove that the person hitting send on the keyboard actually represents that carrier. Knowing a fact is not proof of identity.
Right. It's like if I walked up to a bank teller and said, hey, I know the account number, I know the home address, and I know the mother's maiden name, but I'm wearing a ski mask.
Yeah, the teller isn't going to hand over the cash.
The teller shouldn't give me the money just because I recited public or easily obtainable facts. But in freight, we are handing over the money or the cargo every single day based on recited facts.
Because of the friction dilemma. The entire freight market, by its very nature, is built to reward speed.
Right. Freight doesn't sleep. If a truck isn't moving, it's losing money.
Exactly. If a dispatcher at a brokerage decides to take 30 minutes to thoroughly verify a new counterparty on a load, calling the FMCSA, hunting down the insurance underwriter, running reverse IP checks, they are probably going to lose that truck.
Because someone else will just book them.
Right. The carrier will just take another load from a broker who doesn't ask so many questions and can book it in 2 minutes. Conversely, if a driver asks too many questions about a highly profitable last-minute run, the broker just hangs up and calls the next truck on the board.
It's a race to the bottom.
Fraudsters understand this psychological pressure perfectly. They manufacture artificial urgency specifically to force you to shortcut your verification process.
And let's be real about who is targeted here. We aren't just talking about massive multinational logistics conglomerates with entire floors dedicated to cybersecurity.
No, not at all.
The backbone of trucking in this country is small businesses. Owner-operators who are acting as the driver, the dispatcher, the mechanic, and the billing department all at once.
Wearing all the hats?
Yeah. They are sitting in the cab of a truck at a truck stop, trying to book their next load on a smartphone while eating a sandwich.
Sure.
They do not have dedicated fraud analysts. They are the prime targets.
Exactly. Criminal networks utilize automated bots to probe dozens, sometimes hundreds, of small companies simultaneously with spoofed emails and fake load postings until one of them cracks under the pressure of speed.
It's just a numbers game for them.
They know it's a numbers game, and speed is their greatest weapon.
Which naturally brings up the role of the government. People hear this and immediately think, well, where is the regulator? Why isn't the government fixing this?
Right, the classic question.
And it's not like the FMCSA has done nothing. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration did implement new broker and freight forwarder financial responsibility rules. These rules became fully applicable quite recently on January 16th, 2026.
Yes, the January 2026 rules were a major regulatory milestone. They strengthened the $75,000 security requirement, which are known as the BMC 85 trust funds.
Right. Historically, a broker had to have a $75,000 bond to operate. The idea was that if the broker went bankrupt or refused to pay a carrier, the carrier could file a claim against that bond to get paid.
Right, but fraudsters were exploiting loopholes.
Right. How are they doing that?
Well, fraudsters would set up a fake brokerage, operate for 3 months, steal millions of dollars in freight charges, and then vanish. When the carriers went to claim the $75,000 bond, they'd find out the trust fund was filled with illiquid assets, or a single claim had drained it months ago and the broker was still operating.
Ah, I see.
The new January 2026 rules required those assets to be readily available, cash or cash equivalents, and instituted much faster automatic suspensions of a broker's operating authority if the funds dropped below the $75,000 requirement.
Okay, so they tighten the net. That sounds like a meaningful protection.
It is a meaningful protection against a very specific type of financial insolvency. It prevents brokers from holding nominal security that can't actually pay a claim. But there is a critical structural flaw if you view this as a total solution to the fraud crisis.
Okay, what is it?
I want you to think about an apartment security deposit.
Okay, I'm tracking.
A security deposit is great for fixing a hole in the drywall after a bad tenant moves out. It provides financial restitution after the damage is done. But a security deposit does absolutely nothing to stop a burglar from smashing your window while you're sleeping.
Ah, I see. That makes perfect sense.
$75,000 drains incredibly fast when multiple claims hit at once from a coordinated fraud ring. A cartel might steal $1.5 million worth of copper wire and electronics over a 3-day holiday weekend.
Right.
By Tuesday morning, 50 different carriers are filing claims against a single $75,000 bond. It pays out pennies on the dollar months later. But more importantly, going back to identity theft, A criminal can easily impersonate a legitimate broker whose $75,000 security is fully intact and perfectly compliant with the new rules.
Because they aren't checking the bond, they're wearing the costume.
Exactly. The rule improves financial accountability after the fact, but it does absolutely nothing to create real-time transaction authentication. It doesn't stop the crime from happening in the moment.
Which brings us to the massive ongoing controversy surrounding the load boards. For the listeners who might not be deep in the weeds, load boards are the digital marketplaces, the dating apps of freight, essentially, where brokers post loads they need moved and carriers post empty trucks looking for freight.
Right. It's where the connections happen.
Because the FMCSA's bond doesn't stop the fraud in real time, carriers are turning around and pointing fingers directly at these platforms. They are demanding that load boards bear the liability for the fraud occurring on their sites.
Yes, the tension here is immense. The carrier's argument is essentially, look, you profit from connecting us. You charge us monthly subscription fees. You market your platform as a trusted, secure environment. Therefore, you should be on the hook when that trust fails and we get scammed by someone using your site.
That sounds reasonable from the carrier's perspective.
Sure, they want the platforms to verify every user, monitor all suspicious behavior, and aggressively freeze compromised accounts, taking on the financial liability if a bad actor slips through.
And the platforms push back hard on that, don't they? They start sounding a lot like social media companies defending Section 230.
The parallels are definitely there. The load boards argue that they are merely marketplaces, bulletin boards, really, and not actual parties to the transportation contracts.
Right.
They are providing the digital room where the buyers and sellers meet, but they're not guaranteeing the quality or the integrity of the transaction itself. They point out that if the government imposed broad financial liability on them for every fraudulent load, they would be forced to massively raise their prices to cover the insurance costs.
Which would hurt the small owner-operators the most.
Exactly. It could destroy access for the very small businesses that rely on these platforms to survive. Furthermore, to mitigate their liability risk, the platforms argue they would be forced to reject new legitimate carriers just because they lack a long proven history.
Basically creating an impossible barrier to entry for new trucking companies.
Correct.
So where does the Cascadia Prime report land on this? Do they take a side?
The report proposes what it calls a balanced standard. It acknowledges that strict total liability would break the marketplace model. Platforms shouldn't guarantee every transaction. However, the report is clear that platforms cannot just throw their hands up and claim zero responsibility. They must implement and strictly enforce reasonable security practices.
So what does a reasonable security practice look like for a load board in 2026?
It means mandatory multi-factor authentication for every single login, no exceptions. It means investing in back-end algorithms to detect abnormal login patterns, like an account that normally logs in from Ohio, suddenly logging in from Nigeria and posting 50 loads in 10 minutes.
Which should be a huge red flag.
Exactly. It means artificially delaying high-risk account changes, like banking info updates and maintaining rapid responsive freeze procedures so victims can lock down their accounts the moment an ATO is suspected.
But hearing all this, hearing about the load boards fighting liability, the FMCSA bond just being a security deposit, the complexity of ATOs, I have to ask, isn't this exactly what government regulation is supposed to fix?
I get that question a lot.
Right. Like, why can't the FMCSA just build a system to authenticate every single load so we don't have to rely on load boards and exhausted dispatchers playing detective? Why not a centralized federal blockchain or something?
Because it is a structural impossibility and, frankly, a misunderstanding of the government's role. The FMCSA regulates safety, vehicle registration, operating authority, and baseline financial responsibility. They are an administrative and safety agency.
They aren't the police.
Right. They are not a real-time commercial arbiter, nor are they a criminal prosecutorial agency like the FBI. More to the point, think about the volume and the privacy issues. The government cannot possibly inject itself into and authenticate every single private rate confirmation, driver assignment, or bank instruction exchanged in private, fast-moving commerce.
Millions of these transactions happen daily.
Millions.
Right, they can't be in the middle of a private contract negotiation between two businesses at 2 a.m. on a Sunday.
Exactly. The government's role is to protect the identity layer it controls, the public databases, the MC numbers, and to coordinate post-incident enforcement. But the industry itself must authenticate the individual transactions. The government can issue the passport, but the border guard actually has to look at the face of the person holding it.
And in this industry, the border guard is a dispatcher who is already running late on their next appointment.
Sadly, yes.
So, because the government and the load boards simply can't catch everything, the burden of real-time authentication falls directly, heavily, on the individual businesses moving the fight.
Yep, it's on you.
So let's pivot to the tactical warning signs. If I am that dispatcher, if I am that border guard, what am I looking for? We are entering the danger zone. These are the red flags that mean a transaction is actively being hijacked. And the rule here is, when you see these, you don't slow down to figure it out. You stop entirely.
The Cascadia Prime Report lists some very specific, highly correlated indicators of fraud. We need to dissect these because they exploit human psychology just as much as they exploit technology.
Okay, let's start with the financial lure. Rates that are wildly above or below market value.
Right.
If a rate seems too good to be true, it is. But let's explain why a fraudster does this. If I'm a carrier and the going rate for a run from Chicago to Dallas is $2,000 and someone offers me $4,000, I might think I just got lucky.
You didn't get lucky. You got targeted. Fraudsters offer double the market rate because they are buying your compliance.
Buying compliance. That's a great way to put it.
They know that if the rate is incredible, you will be so eager to lock it in that you won't ask annoying questions about their email address or their physical location. They are using greed to blind your security checks.
Wow.
Conversely, if a fake carrier offers to haul a load for half the market rate, the broker will jump on it to maximize their margin, ignoring the fact that the carrier is likely a double broker who intends to steal it.
And tied directly to that financial lure is the psychological pressure cooker. Extreme pressure to act immediately.
Yes. Fraudsters create an artificial crisis. They'll say, my truck is at the dock right now, I need the rate con in 5 minutes. Or I'm leaving. Or the shipper is closing in 20 minutes, sign this now.
Just trying to get you to panic.
Exactly. They do this so you don't have time to run your checks. If you are panicked, you are inspecting email headers. If someone is screaming at you that the load has to be booked in the next 60 seconds, walk away. Legitimate logistics has urgency, but it rarely demands the abandonment of basic security protocols.
Then there is a refusal to use established communication channels. Let's say I've been doing business with Mega Logistics for 5 years. I always talk to them through their official portal or their verified corporate email.
Right.
Suddenly, a guy claiming to be from Mega Logistics texts my personal cell phone and insists on negotiating a $10,000 load via text or WhatsApp.
That is a massive red flag.
Yeah.
Fraudsters want to move you off platforms where they might be monitored or where official digital trails are kept. They want to isolate you in an insecure channel where they control the narrative.
Let's talk about the digital artifacts themselves. New email domains or changed phone numbers. The report emphasizes heavily that display names mean absolutely nothing.
This is a critical technical vulnerability. A display name in an email client can be whatever the sender wants it to be. It can say John Smith at Mega Logistics. But if you hover your mouse over that name and the actual email address says John Smith 123 at freeemailservice.com, you are being scammed.
But they get much more sophisticated than just using a Gmail or Yahoo account, don't they?
Much more. They use homoglyph attacks and typo squatting.
Typo squad.
Yeah. They will buy a domain that is one letter off from the real company. If the real company is pacificfreight.com, they will register pacificfreights.com with an S on the end, or pacificfreight.com missing an I.
Sneaky.
At a quick glance, your brain autocorrects the spelling and you assume it's legitimate. They even use characters from different alphabets, like a Cyrillic A, which looks identical to a Latin A on a screen, but registers as a completely different website.
That is terrifying. You literally have to inspect every single letter.
You really do.
Moving on to the paperwork. Mismatched names, addresses, or signatures on the documentation.
If the rate confirmation says Smith Trucking, but the insurance certificate says Smith Logistics LLC, and the address on the W-9 doesn't match the address on the FNCSA database, you stop.
Don't ignore it.
Exactly. Fraudsters are often sloppy when cobbling together these digital costumes from different stolen identities. The inconsistencies are the seams in the disguise.
You also need to look out for recent authority or unexplained operating changes in public records.
This is huge. Let's say a carrier's operating authority was dormant for 5 years. The owner retired. Suddenly, yesterday, that authority is reactivated.
That's suspicious.
Very. The address changes from a farm in Iowa to a virtual office building in Miami. The insurance is updated. And today they are bidding on a high-value copper load in California. That is a textbook chameleon carrier or a resurrected stolen identity. proceed with extreme caution.
Here is a big one that happens right at the dock. A carrier refusing to identify the actual driver or the equipment before pickup. If I'm a broker and the carrier won't give me the driver's name, cell phone number, or the tractor's license plate number ahead of time, why are they hiding that?
They are hiding it because they don't actually know who is showing up.
What do you mean?
If they're a fraudulent double broker, they have just posted the load on another board. They are waiting for a totally unrelated, innocent carrier to take the bait. Until that innocent carrier commits, the fraudster has no idea what truck or driver to tell you to expect.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If they refuse to provide equipment details, it is almost certainly a double brokered load.
You also want to watch out for repeated requests to reissue documents, particularly rate confirmations or bills of lading. Why do they do that?
Because they need a clean copy to show the next victim. They ask you to remove your brokerage's name, or they ask for a blank bill of lading so they can insert their own fake information when they turn around and sell the load to the innocent delivering carrier.
And then there are last-minute destination or cross-dot changes. This is where the physical theft actually happens, right?
Yes, this is a classic cargo redirection scheme. The truck is in transit. The fraudster calls the legitimate driver pretending to be the broker and says, hey, the original receiver is full, or they rejected the load. I need you to deliver it to this temporary warehouse down the street instead.
And the temporary warehouse is just an abandoned lot where the cartel unloads the trailer into unmarked vans in 20 minutes.
Precisely. They use the driver's desire to be helpful and get the load off their truck against them.
And finally, the ultimate goal of the financial fraud. Payment instructions involving unrelated third-party entities.
Right. If you owe money to carrier A and their dispatcher emails you and says, our bank account is under maintenance, please wire the money to this entirely different LLC you've never heard of, you freeze the payment immediately.
Stop the wire.
Stop it. That is the moment the account takeover monetizes the hack.
Now, while dry van, freight, televisions, electronics, copper is heavily exposed to all of this, the Cascadia Prime report points out that specialized freight, specifically propane and petroleum, faces catastrophic risks. This isn't just about losing a few pallets of sneakers.
No, the stakes elevate dramatically from financial loss to public safety, environmental hazards, and severe regulatory violations. With hazmat and fuel, a cargo redirection isn't just theft.
How does stealing fuel work mechanically? You can't just unload 8,000 gallons of diesel into a garage.
You need infrastructure. Fraudsters will redirect a fuel tanker to an unapproved, often complicit, unbranded gas station or a compromised bulk storage tank.
Oh, so they just mix it right in.
Exactly. They drop the fuel, and it instantly mixes with the legitimate fuel in the underground tank. It becomes a perfectly untraceable liquid asset. Within hours, it is being pumped into consumer vehicles for cash.
But the liability for the carrier is insane.
It is company ending. Delivering fuel to an unapproved site violates strict tax controls because motor fuel taxes are assessed based on the specific delivery location. It violates environmental requirements regarding tank certifications, and it violates strict hazardous materials safety procedures.
So what's the rule for drivers here?
The report is incredibly clear. Drivers hauling these materials must never, under any circumstances, accept a destination change through an unfamiliar phone number or a random text message.
Treating a pickup number like a Willy Wonka golden ticket is a recipe for absolute disaster. I hear this all the time. A driver shows up, gives a 6-digit number, and the warehouse just hands over a $300,000 load.
It happens every day.
Just because someone has the number in their hand doesn't mean they're allowed inside the chocolate factory. A pickup number is just a string of digits. It is not proof of identity. If a fraudster intercepts an email, they have the pickup number.
What's fascinating here, if we connect this to the bigger picture, is how heavily fraudsters rely on our own human nature. Our desire to be helpful, our desire to be efficient, our desire to not be the person holding up the line. We are conditioned in this industry to want to clear the dock and move the freight.
Nobody wants to be the bottleneck.
Exactly. One of those red flags we just listed might, on a rare freak occasion, have an innocent explanation, like a typo. But if you see several of those red flags stacking up, a new domain, a changed bank account, and high pressure, you are not dealing with a typo. You are communicating with a highly organized cartel.
Which brings us to the physical reality of the supply chain. If the dispatchers miss the red flags because they are overworked, if the load board software fails to catch the spoofed IP address, the physical cargo eventually reaches the absolute edge of the chain.
The last stop.
And standing there, holding a clipboard or a tablet, is the driver. Let's shift focus to why drivers are the ultimate final human firewall and the absolute last authentication point before a load is lost forever.
The driver is the only person in this entire digital transaction who actually touches the physical asset. The report provides explicit, non-negotiable instructions for empowering drivers to act as this firewall.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, they must confirm pickup and delivery instructions only through their known, established dispatcher, not through the broker who called them directly, not through the guard shack, but through the person at their own company who pays their paycheck.
Second, they must flatly refuse unverified destination changes, especially if they come via unknown texts or calls while they are on the road. If a random number calls and says, "Deliver to warehouse B," the driver's only response should be, "I'm calling my dispatcher."
Exactly. They also have to fiercely protect their operational data. Pickup numbers, PINs, facility access codes, and seal numbers.
Because that data is gold.
Yes. The report notes that in the fuel sector especially, sharing loading cards or PI numbers is often treated as a casual procedural shortcut. A driver might give their PI to a terminal operator to speed things up.
They just want to get moving.
Right, but that needs to end. It must be treated as a major security event, no different than handing over your ATM PIN.
And here is a huge one that criminals exploit constantly. Drivers must never send photos of their credentials, like their commercial driver's license or medical card, to unknown parties via text. A broker might say, "Hey, text me a picture of your CDL so I know you're at the dock."
Worst thing you can do.
That is just handing the criminals the exact high-res imagery they need for their next round of identity theft.
And physically, drivers are instructed to stop the truck before entering any unplanned cross-dock or temporary warehouse. If the location feels wrong, if it's a dirt lot behind a strip mall instead of a commercial logistics facility, or if it wasn't on the original verified routing, they need to halt, set the parking brake, and make a phone call.
But implementing this requires a massive tectonic cultural shift within the trucking company itself, because let's play this out in the real world. I want to put myself in the driver's shoes for a second.
Okay, put on the shoes.
I'm a driver. I've been driving for 10 hours. I'm at the facility. There is a line of 6 trucks behind me burning fuel, and those drivers are angry. The shipping clerk is stressed out, screaming at me to just sign the iPad, take the load, and get out of the yard.
A very common scenario.
If I pause to verify an email address that feels off, or if I refuse to move because the destination on the bill of lading doesn't match my dispatch notes, I am holding up the entire operation. I am the bottleneck. How do I actually push back in that moment without risking my job or getting banned from the facility?
That scenario is the crux of the problem. That pressure cooker is exactly why the verification burden cannot be an improvised battle of wills at the loading dock. It cannot just be the driver standing there alone arguing with a shipping clerk. It has to be a systemic, documented workflow supported from the very top of the organization.
Meaning the CEO and the terminal managers have to have the driver's back.
Absolutely. The cultural shift is this. Drivers must never be punished, reprimanded, or docked pay for pausing a suspicious transaction. Ever. Even if it turns out to be a false alarm.
That's a strong statement.
It has to be. A company policy that prioritizes speed over verification literally teaches criminals exactly where to attack your organization. If a driver knows that management will back them up 100% for demanding proper identification or refusing an unverified route change, the human firewall holds. If the driver is afraid of getting fired for being slow, the firewall crumbles.
Okay, we've seen the schemes. We've analyzed the system failures and the structural limitations of the government. We've identified the red flags hiding in plain sight, and we've defined the driver's critical role. Now it's time to put all of this theory into practice.
Time to build the fortress.
Exactly. It is time to build a bulletproof system. The Cascadia Prime report concludes with a 17-point freight fraud prevention checklist. And as I promised at the beginning, we aren't just going to read a list. We are going to track a load and build this fortress around it.
Right. To make this actionable, we've grouped these 17 steps into 4 logical phases of a transaction's lifecycle. This takes it from an overwhelming list of chores to a strategic, repeatable implementation plan.
What?
Let's start before the load even exists. Phase 1, digital fortification. This covers steps 1, 2, 6, and 14. This is your foundation.
Step 1, use multi-factor authentication or MFA on all FMCSA and platform accounts. A password is no longer enough to protect your business.
No, it isn't.
If a hacker steals your password but they don't have the biometric scan on your phone, they can't get into your load board. Step 2, Ensure official company contacts and domains are perfectly accurate on public profiles. You have to lock down your own identity.
That's so important.
Check your FMCSA profile today. If the phone number is an old cell phone you don't use anymore, a criminal can port that number and become you.
Exactly. Now, step 6 is crucial for your dispatchers. Deeply inspect email domains, not just display names. Train your staff. Conduct drills. Teach them to look for misspellings, unusual top-level domains, or recent domain creations that try to mimic trusted partners.
Train them to spot the type of squatting.
Yes. And step 14, preserve digital evidence. If something looks suspicious, don't just hit delete to clear your inbox. Save the email headers, save the platform logs. It might be the only trail cyber investigators have to track the cartel.
Okay, your digital walls are high. Now the phone rings. A broker wants you to move a load. We move into phase 2. The verification workflow. This is how you actually process a transaction safely. It includes steps 3, 4, 5, 8, and 10.
Well, let's hear them.
Step 3, verify counterparties through independent sources. Never rely solely on a PDF or a screenshot supplied by the person you are doing business with. Like we said, PDFs are easily forged. If they send an insurance cert, go directly to the underwriter's official system to check the operating status and policy limits.
Excellent. Step 4 dictates that enhanced review is triggered by any contact changes. If a longtime partner you've worked with for years suddenly uses a new email or phone number to book a load, treat it as a high-risk transaction immediately.
Don't just assume Dave got a new phone.
Right, which leads directly to step 5. Use no-number callbacks for high-risk transactions. This is the most effective tool in the arsenal. If Daze emails you a new phone number and says, "Call me here to discuss the rate," do not call that new number to verify Dave.
Call the old number.
Call the previously verified number you already have on file for Meta Logistics to confirm if the change is legitimate.
Right. Verify the change through the established channel, not the new channel. Step 8 happens when you actually book the load. Never use pickup numbers as the sole method of authentication. Like we said, it's not a golden ticket. Limit who receives them, transmit them securely, and require a secondary form of ID at the facility. And step 10 is for your accounting department. Require dual approval for any bank factor or remittance changes. If someone emails and says, "Update our pull info to this new account," 2 separate people in your organization need to verify that change independently before a wire is sent.
Now the truck is dispatched. We enter phase 3. Operational control, taking back control of the physical movement of the freight. This involves step 7, 9, 11, and 12.
Sorry, hit me.
Step 7. Confirm driver and equipment identity physically before releasing the cargo. The facility guard must match the driver's physical CDL, the tractor license plate, and the trailer number to the dispatch confirmation sent by the verified broker. If it doesn't match, the gate doesn't open.
Step 9. Independent approval is strictly required for destination and cross-dock changes. The driver cannot make this call alone based on a random phone call. They must call dispatch, and dispatch must call the verified shipper to confirm the redirection.
Step 11 is back in the office. Contracts must explicitly address the difference between rebrokering and co-brokering.
Like we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Leave no legal gray areas for a fraudster to hide behind when the lawyers get involved. Define the terms strictly.
And step 12, as we just discussed at length, drivers are explicitly authorized by management to pause suspicious transactions without fear of retaliation. It must be written in the employee handbook.
It has to be cultural.
Finally, phase 4, crisis response and governance. Because despite all this, criminals evolve and eventually someone makes a mistake. This phase covers steps 13, 15, 16, and 17.
Okay, the final stretch.
Step 13, document distinct response plans. A physical cargo theft at a truck stop requires a totally different response than discovering a digital identity theft or a payment diversion. Know the playbook before the crisis hits, because in the moment, panic destroys logic.
Step 15. Report incidents to appropriate federal and local channels immediately. Do not let embarrassment delay reporting. Fraud networks thrive when victims handle incidents quietly and separately out of shame.
People want to hide it.
They do. But the FBI and the FMCSA need the data to spot the patterns. Now, step 16 is about industry ethics. Distinguish confirmed identity theft from actual carrier misconduct. If a legitimate carrier was a victim of identity theft, don't put them on a private blacklist or trash them on load board forms based on rumor. Good governance protects the innocent.
And step 17. Test and review these controls at least quarterly. Run a simulated fraudulent payment change request on your accounting team. Send a spoofed phishing email to your dispatchers and see if they catch it.
Keep them on their toes. I want to highlight the crisis protocol here, what the report refers to as the golden minutes. If fraud does slip through, what you do in the first few minutes dictates whether you lose everything or recover the asset.
The golden minutes.
If you suspect cargo diversion is actively happening, do not email the broker. Contact your driver directly through a known number and instruct them to stop the truck and not release the cargo to anyone. Dial 9-11 if it's an active emergency or if the driver feels threatened. Freeze financial transfers instantly with your bank. And crucially, do not confront suspected criminals directly without law enforcement direction.
So what does this all mean when you put it together? It means these 17 steps take counterparty verification and transform it from an improvised, gut-feeling phone call by a stressed-out dispatcher into a hardened, documented, and repeatable workflow.
Precisely. You are removing the human vulnerability of guessing and hoping and replacing it with an institutional system that defaults to security.
As we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap the journey we've taken today. We started by decoding the critical difference between legal, transparent co-brokering and the destructive, contract-breaching nature of fraudulent double brokering.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We explored the terrifying mechanics of account takeovers and how criminals wear legitimate MC numbers like digital costumes. We exposed the red flags that criminals try to hide in plain sight, from homoglyph domains to manufactured urgency.
The red flags are key.
We armed our drivers with the exact tools and the cultural backing they need to push back against suspicious demands at the dock. And finally, we tracked a load through the 17-step master plan to lock down your operations, from digital fortification to those critical golden minutes of crisis response.
And we noted the structural reality that neither the FMCSA's bond requirements nor the load board's current liability structures are going to save you in real time. The burden of authentication is on you.
Exactly. Now, the rules for this show say we have to leave you with a final provocative thought. Something that builds on everything we've discussed but pushes it one step further.
I'm ready.
We've talked extensively today about how fraudsters use spoofed emails, manipulated PDFs, and stolen data to trick dispatchers and drivers. But I want you to consider the rapid, terrifying rise of generative AI.
Oh, wow. It is the next frontier of this crisis.
Right now in 2026, fraudsters are highly successful using manual emails and text messages. But what happens tomorrow? What happens when a cyber cartel feeds 3 hours of your dispatcher's phone calls into an AI model and clones their voice perfectly?
That is nightmare fuel.
Imagine a driver's on the road and they get a phone call. The caller ID matches the brokerage. The voice on the other end is Dave, their dispatcher. The cadence, the tone, the slight southern drawl, it's flawlessly Dave. And Dave tells the driver, hey, there's a change of plans. I need you to redirect that load of electronics to this warehouse down the street.
They wouldn't even think twice.
If we are struggling to catch typo-scrotted emails today, how on earth is a driver supposed to authenticate a flawless AI voice clone tomorrow?
It's going to be so hard.
The 17 steps we discussed today aren't just a fix for current vulnerabilities. They are the bare minimum foundation you'll need to survive the automated AI-driven cyber cartels of the very near future. If your security relies entirely on recognizing a voice or an email address, you are already obsolete.
That is a chilling reality to prepare for. The human element will be exploited more thoroughly than ever before.
Which brings us back to that phone call we started with. The moment you realize the truck that drove away with your freight was a digital phantom, you can stop that phone call from ever happening. The final question you have to mull over as you look at your own operations today is this. Are you willing to spend 5 minutes adding friction to your workflow to thoroughly verify a load today? Or would you rather spend 5 months trying to recover your stolen cargo, your ruined reputation, and your lost money tomorrow?
Well said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the data in front of you, build your fortress, and stay safe out there.